Testing. Audio looks good. Let's see. All right, so there's a basic little logic thing I want to do there. Um, we have the ability to equip a weapon, but we don't have the ability to unequip it. Um, to equip a weapon, you highlight it and press E. So to unequip a weapon, well, so there's uh, um, they said to equip. So equipping a new weapon will unequip the old weapon. But if we just want to like unequip, whatever we got, because maybe we want to go bare fist, right? Maybe there's something else that requires you to unequip for some reason. So to warm up, let's get that in there. Let's think. We've done a lot of reorganizing to the code in the last week. LibLogic is now down to 477 lines. LibDraw is now down to 380 lines. And that's largely because a lot of the functions have been pulled out into their own files now. I was kind of inspired by Rust's crate system, where like a crate is effectively just some chunk of code that can be pulled into other projects, right? So you can declare that your project depends upon some crate, and then you can use things in that crate in your own crates. I don't know how to talk about it right, but certain things feel like they translate to C++ and C pretty easily, such as that. Um, Another thing too, I was watching the low level channel. He did a video on the Cloudflare outage earlier, and it has to do with Rust and options and results and errors. And I feel like I've solved a lot of that in C++. Like, there's parts of the STL that can be used in a way that's effectively the same thing, right? Um, I need to share this thing before I continue. All right, so let's get cracking here. Handle input inventory. Big old nasty function. Big old nasty function. One reason I pulled it out into its own file. Um, let's do an experiment, right? Okay, so we just fed this file to Aider, right? And then we're gonna be like, yo, bitch, I got a fucking thing I want you to do for me. Actually, before we do that, So it's able to find the part of the code that does what I described, right? All right, Ader, do it. Gamedev LLM, let's fucking go. So the benefit of this style is that I ultimately send over far less tokens. Naturally, DeepSeek is a lot slower than the other LLMs, but the price is right. Let's see if this actually fixes it, right? Okay, let's try it out. Let's build this new code that DeepSeek just wrote me. Sick. Sick. Fucking perfect. Okay, that's fucking amazing. Yeah, one of the benefits of this new organization is I'm going to be using a lot less tokens during my Aider conversations, right? Um, because I don't have to push over a bunch of like irrelevant code that I'm not like actively changing. Um, it was definitely a very big slog to actually do all these updates or having like all of these functions in one big file, and the file's multiple thousand lines long, right? And I literally go through, and for instance, for handle input, which is one function, this has four separate functions beneath it that also got pulled out into their own files. So for instance, handle input title scene. This is a very easy, most like basic case, right? Um, When you're on the title screen, this function is what gets called over here. If you're on the main menu scene, handle input for that scene. If you're on the character creation scene, handle input for that scene. And if you're on the gameplay scene, handle input for that scene. And on the gameplay scene, we have the ability to swap into camera mode, move the camera around. We can move the player around, and we could be on the inventory. So if we wanted to add like other menus, this would be a place where we would handle like the controlling of that menu. Just thinking out loud here. Anyone in the chat? How y'all doing today? Ain't nobody watching this thing. That's all right. I'm just here to get some stuff done and actually push things forward. More people show up usually whenever I actually have like the game on the screen. So when you're on control mode inventory, at the moment, escape doesn't kill the game like it does with the others. So this should allow me to kill the game from the inventory screen now. Perfect. In addition to that, we also want to be able to do it from the title scene. And we want to be able to do it on character creation. Perfect. All right, the title of today's stream is Monsters. You want to talk about monsters with me? I'd like that. Create NPC set stats. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to work through this one. This is very unorganized. You probably don't really need like whole ass functions for this so much as the enum is probably fine, but ultimately what we're trying to do here is create a relationship between an enum representing the race of an entity and a string representing the value of the enum. So we could do like vectors or something like that, but we're just kind of taking a look at how to create any NPC, right? So let's take a look at create NPC. So with create NPC, we're able to just pass in the race and attach it as a component. There is a corresponding part to this in libdraw when we go to create a sprite group. Or a sprite group by ID. That's a big nasty function. Eventually, we're going to re-enable some of the things down here so that we can spawn like fields and rings and things like that. We might even do some of that today. We'll see. Because it's directly related to creating entities in general, because entities are not just NPCs. They can be items, they can be weapons, they can be, eventually be switches and things like this that you can interact with. So let's think about this. When you go to create an orc, we have to select the texture. So assuming the texture is loaded, we would have to pull in its textures to create the sprite group representing the different set of possible animations for a given entity. And currently we're handling orc, elf, dwarf, halfling, goblin, wolf, bat, warg, and green slime. There's a good amount, but at the moment there's not really any sort of very like advanced statistics or anything like this that are really attached to the NPC that we're really taking advantage of. As an example of this, I don't believe there's any HP being set at the moment. But we want to do that inside of set stats because when you go to attack an enemy, at the moment, there's only placeholder code. Effectively, every enemy will have 1 HP at the moment. But one of the goals I can aim for right now is actually change that so that it's more than just 1 HP, so that it takes more than one hit to kill the guy. Let's take a look at lib logic. Try entity attack. This one's a nasty one. This one has a few functions in it. Normally, right, so in the old version we had, before we actually updated to the new component system, we had a call to actually get the HP of the target and then do calculations from there. So one thing that we can do as a kind of test in this direction, take a look at the component table and the component traits. So we have not yet defined hit points. We have equipped weapon. So let's do struct hit point T. And this is going to be an int. So template empty struct component traits type hit points using type equals int. Oh wait, no, this has to be hit points like regular, like that. So there's our new our component. And actually we want to also do a max hit points. Better yet, we could just say, we could actually call this HP and max HP. That's a little bit easier. So there's our new component. So we wanted to hard code in 4 HP as an example for this new entity. Do that right here. Now it's up to me to actually utilize it somehow. So back over and try entity attack, right? Instead of HP equals that, I'm getting blown the fuck up on my phone, man. Okay, so over here, G pointing to CT dot get HP from target ID and max HP equals. Well, actually, I don't think we really care about max HP right now, right? Oh, and we can't call this HP. Target HP. Oh, right, because it's the it's an optional. Actually, let's see how we should do this. And actually, yeah, we have to update the target's HP with the new HP. So G pointing to CT dot set HP for target ID to be target HP. So now it should take 4 hits to actually take our dude out. And if for some reason our target doesn't have a HP component, then target does not have an HP component. Oops. On 161. Weird that it was compiling before. Oh no. It was because of that. Okay, he took 4 hits. It did not do the damaged animation, but you know what? This is a good start. Because it should not be very hard to work that in. Good start. I'm gonna have to take a piss here in a second. Hi from Pakistan. How you doing, man? Heard y'all got some rough shit going on right now. I hope you're okay. All about my global fam. So what y'all got going on today? You know, what y'all want to see from me? What are y'all doing in game dev? What are y'all doing in programming in C++ and Linux? Y'all rocking it like I'm rocking it? How y'all rocking it? All right, so it's a lot to do. Damaged animations whenever the enemy gets hit should probably be the next thing I do. Um, All right, set sprite group is damaged. Um, okay, wait. Well, we are setting it to is damaged, but the animation seems like it's getting reset too quickly. So one thing I might need to do is actually like crank the HP up or make them unkillable for the moment or something like that. Um, no, you're not cooked, dude. Don't even trip about it. Honestly, it's never a better time to learn programming than right now. And it's always the present moment. Like, don't buy into these fears of AI taking your jobs, or don't think that you have to vibe code your way to success. Sure, people are making great effort to utilize these tools in a way that alleviates how much work it is that they actually need to do. And hopefully during my streams, I can demonstrate some actually useful ways to integrate LLM usage into your development process, whether you're a game developer, a web developer, or whatever it is that you happen to be doing. Hi, Kucher Games. How you doing? The AI space is still very new, in the same way that computers are still very new. A lot of people might not think that, but they're not thinking of it from the grand scheme. They're not thinking about the leaps and bounds that occur at certain checkpoints in history. They're not thinking about the basics that got us there. And if you get the basics down, then you can do anything. Like straight up. Like the sky is the absolute fucking limit if you have concrete like fundamentals. Um, it's weird to think that I've been teaching and tutoring students online for like 10 almost 10 years or some shit, man. And got a long way to go, you know, and this game of mine is a passion project. It's ultimately something I want to work on. I want to make my main thing. And I appreciate everyone who's liking the stream and showing me some support. Um, See, I would, you're probably going to feel like you're going to get left behind, right? If you don't participate in this vibe coding bullshit. But the fact of the matter is that when they run into a dead end and they're not able to get the LLM to fix its own problem, and they're going to be banging their head against the keyboard, stuck as fuck, wondering how the hell do I solve this bug or fix this situation. And in other cases, people will think that they've fixed the bug because the LLM told them that they fixed it, but they have no means to actually verify or check. And then 6 months down the line, you get a database leak because the vibe coded AI thing decided to default the password to the database password. You know, this is absolutely the kind of situation that we're facing and is already happening in the world. I never thought that things would get this retarded, but here we are. How's it going, Lydia Kim? What's a Raylib? Raylib is a graphics library. It is a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to get into video game programming right away in C, C++, and a number of different other programming languages. Big shout out to Rayson5. He is the creator of this framework, and I am using it to make this. Before I started the demo, was that all code for the game? Yes. Here's all the code for the game, right? All right, let me make clean. You can see the whole folder here. Actually, I'll unalias so you can see. Oops. See, how many files is it? 230 files, of which 127.h files, 75.cpp files, a make file, a handful of other scripts, and of course all the graphics and all the sound effects. It's all me, baby. It's what we do around here. So, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're jacking the HP up for testing purposes. We're trying to get this damage animation to work again. It used to work a long time ago. But as I did the refactor, I disabled a lot of things, and now I'm still in the process of re-enabling them. Most of the code is present, we just kind of have to debug things. This is the kind of thing that I would absolutely bang my head against if I were to attempt to rely on an LLM to do this for me. There's certain parts that when I whittle the problem down to a small enough chunk, then it makes sense to actually ship it off to the LLM and have it do stuff like I did earlier. but you tend to overscope things, and the LLM's going to start fucking up real fast. Although it can do a lot out of the box, and I have managed to vibe code at least one mostly entire application that I haven't gone back to since. So honestly, the program is so big that digging into it just is a fucking pain in the ass. And I would not feel that way if I had manually written most of it, because then I would have a lot of the infrastructure kind of like present in my brain. And a lot of people who vibe code don't operate that way. So let's run the game again and smack the dude and try to like witness the damage animation, because I didn't see it. And I think that what's happening is the animation is being reset too quickly. So let's go and pick up and equip the knife. I think this is actually because of this thing called check default animations that I turned off a long time ago. I don't remember where I was originally using it though either. I wonder if there were any warnings or errors that I was missing while I was actually running that. So as an example, we'll go and equip that again, and then I'm gonna show the actual like debug window. So it's showing attack is successful. But it doesn't look like I have any sort of debugging info as far as the animation state. You know what? I do have to use the bathroom. The music is good for break time music. So I will be right back. Oops, I didn't have the microphone on. Just a heads up, I'm going to have to make some coffee here in a few minutes, as well as take my baby girl outside. So we had some people till I disappeared. Someone said that they are just starting out with Python. All they can really do is move with WASD and a game ending button. That's not bad. You can't really hate for that level of progress, dude. You know, props. Everyone's got to start somewhere. Just start with small things and build up from there, and you're going to have a great game before you know it. Yeah, these dudes be using literally AI to write fucking programs, and they don't even understand the basics. That's how it be, though. A stubborn Raylibber, yeah, that's right. But see, I'm also old, and like a lot of my initial coding was done before things like Unity or Unreal even existed. So you can't really blame me for, not doing things the way that, a lot of people do them. At the end of the day, the dream is really to not only make my own game, but also to kind of own as much of the infrastructure as possible. And Raylib is a reasonable enough sacrifice in that I don't need to roll my own graphics architecture or anything like this in order to be productive in it. In fact, Raylib is far easier to work with than libSDL, because I was previously doing game stuff exclusively in libSDL, and it also worked in a very similar manner, but there was a little bit extra heavy lifting that I had to do that Raylib takes care for me. Speaking of that coffee, coffee. All right. Where are we at? No, yeah, just normal well, libSDL is the library for SDL, right? Um, it's SDL, yeah. I wasn't using OpenGL because the game I'm making doesn't require any 3D. However, I have fucked with like raw C OpenGL shit using libSDL as the way to render to the window and to spawn the window and open up like an OpenGL context and try to like raw dog draw on like cube, some shit like that. But I'm not like the best with 3D graphics or stuff like that. Maybe one day I'll return to experimenting. But oops. I think what's going to have to happen is that check animation function from earlier. I'm going to have to reintroduce it in order to because at the moment what's actually happening is when it becomes the NPC's turn, we basically fire through all of the logic for every NPC. And handle, let's see, this is in logic. So I go through every NPC, handle their action, and then we immediately switch to NPC animation. But the way that I was originally doing this, right, was we were stepping from like like in the original version, an NPC would take its turn, it would fully animate, and then the next NPC would take its turn and fully animate, and this would repeat until it's the player's turn again. At the moment, we probably want to reintroduce check animation somewhere because we want the enemy's damage animation to fully complete before we move on to like handling all of the NPCs, right? Um, I don't know how much longer I'll be on, but oh wait. I wonder if that's going to change anything. Okay, so there's a logic thing right here. A little bit cleaner. Um, I mean, it's very possible that you could be in a state where you're damaged or and dead at the same time. So we want to try and do this. Okay, so it's not resetting as... It's definitely partially playing it, but then it's resetting it to it's not quite what we want. But it's close. This is in the right direction. But maybe 100's too high for the Let's do like 5. Okay, so that works, but okay, so at the moment it's only defined in libdraw, and I don't have any reference to any old code where I might be calling it. So this is an old function, right? We're gonna pull it out. What's happening, y'all? How y'all doing today? Hope y'all having a good day so far. Check default animations. Yeah, we're not using it at the moment, but there should be an appropriate place for me to kind of just drop it in. Um, Update sprites. I think this makes sense because if we attack an enemy and it's the player, we definitely want to wait until so if all the default animations are done, then we can iterate the flag to the NPC's turn. And then once the NPC's turn is complete, There might be a better way to write this. It's a bit cleaner. So this way it'll only trigger, or it'll only call check that default animations once on every call, regardless of which flag is set. And then it'll do the flag check and handle appropriately. Uh-oh. Um, oh yeah, we gotta add it to our make file. Right. So whenever you write a little new module like I just did, you'll have to update the make file. Thankfully, there's only a few places you have to add things. And that's pretty much it. See how badly I broke everything. No, it seems potentially okay. Okay, enemy's not resetting, and now my shit is stuck. Okay. That's better than nothing. So the default animation must be getting stuck somewhere. So just to prove that that's what actually broke things at the moment. Okay. Okay, so this is returning false because the current on the enemy is not being properly updated when the animation is complete. Um, hmm, feeling fizzled. Naturally. So as you can see, we're getting flooded with this sprite hasn't reset. I'm pretty sure that's the orc. So Let me think. I got. Oh, it's never actually advancing past player animation. Right. And naturally, because oh yeah, so we are going to need to reset the entities if we're not doing that. Yes. Oh, fuck, yes. We got the damage animation working again. Not bad. That feels so good. A lot of that stuff's going to be coming back, but for right now it's just commented out. Uh-oh. Oh, there is no .h file for it. Not bad. Not bad. Did some reorganizing just now. Make things kind of like more logically cohesive and easy to kind of dig into. That was really the major thing I wanted to get done today. $6,200 lines of code. God damn. Woo-wee. That's a lot of code. Oh boy. I sure do love writing code. I'm talking in silly voices. I see y'all watching me. What are y'all doing right now? Come on, yap at me. Don't leave me hanging. I'm gonna have to take my baby girl out in a few minutes. But doesn't mean I can't have a little break right now. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. So far, it's not bad over here. Things could always be better. And one thing you could do to make things better for me is to like the channel, like the stream, hype train that shit, hype me up, motherfuckers. Because this shit's coming. We got 3 likes on the stream already. That's not bad, but we could do better. I want to see that shit hit double digits. Do it. Do it now. If you know what's good for you. And I know what's good for you, so you better listen to me. I know because of the analytics that most of my audience is between, you know, it's like 15 and 5 years younger than me, right? Like most of my audience is something like mid-20s to like mid-30s. I'm gonna be 40 in less than 2 months now. Jesus Christ. Where does the time go? I'm an old man, y'all. Better enjoy your youth while you can. I've got a lot of youth to make up for. That's why I'm doing this. I know now all of the things that I wish I knew as a kid. Right? And having not made it as a corporate developer or as, you know, some major IT guru or whatever, what I have made it as is, you know, an instructor and a tutor and kind of like a guidance counselor of sorts. So I feel like the best position for me in a lot of ways is as a guiding force so that I can help out the youth culture make better decisions and get ahead faster than I did because in society there's this attempt to make things very dodo brain. You know, like there's a lot of effort for companies and corporations and individuals who otherwise have an incentive to capitalize upon your attention in order to sell you things, right? One of the things that I be sold um, is this idea that you have to use certain tools, that you have to do things in certain ways. And that's not what I sell. What I sell is flexibility. What I sell is ultimate control. Because, as an example of this, the advent of languages like Rust and Go are perfect examples of this dumbing down effect where people began panicking. Oh my God, the languages are unsafe because you can access memory and you can have a null pointer. And it's like, Rust broke some shit that was written in Rust legit broke the other day on fucking Cloudflare. So how can anyone who actually knows any better claim that these things offer any sort of real protection? If anything, I feel like it overcomplicates a lot of things. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And a lot of people might argue, but C++ is broken. C is broken. How can anyone use C or C++ in 2025? And it's like, no, that ain't it, Chief. That ain't what this is about. Because those tools are fast. You saw how fast my shit compiles. Let's measure it with just one CPU core, right? Like a fresh compile is going to take a hot minute. $25 seconds for one CPU, right? With 4 cores, well, it still does it in terms of user second. Oh wait, so for me it was actually 2.74. Actually, I want to do that first one again. It's really hard to gauge like a real estimation here. How do I get current time nanoseconds on Bash? Epoch real time. Okay, so oh, and then we got echo diff. 28 seconds for that, right? So let's try 4 quarters. So 28 seconds versus 8 seconds. So 28 seconds versus 8 seconds versus 5 seconds. And keep in mind, the whole benefit to this organization is that when I only have to change like 1 or 2 files, only those files have to be rebuilt. So, provided you have a fresh build, things build really fast after the first build because it only has to do like 1 or 2 objects for whatever it is that you're editing, which is huge. It's a great gain in terms of organization and iteration speed, and you'd be able to crank out ideas faster in the long term. It was kind of a pain in the ass to get rolling, I'm not going to lie, but I'm glad I did it. One of the things that I should do actually to keep it just as extensible is to do a liblogic handle NPCs. Now over in the make file, of course, just like before, we're going to have to update a couple of the rules. Update some of these old rules here. Okay. Let's give it a build. Let's see if my yeah, see, look how fast that shit built. So it's very easy to move things around and achieve this kind of speed up if you organize your code in a certain way. A lot of people who write C++ have been obsessed with like header only type implementations for a long time, which on one hand reduces the number of compilation steps in the long run, but for any sufficiently complicated system, it gets a little bit hairy to deal with. It's not to say it's a bad thing or that there's one right way to do it over the other, but I'm getting by with this one. Now, I'm thinking the next game that I do in the, a year plus from now, sometime next year maybe, I'll start doing more header only type things. As it is, the component table is a header only implementation. And this was mostly vibe coded out, so there were a couple things I had to fix, but there was a lot here that was very difficult to figure out, like this thing right here, this thing right here, this thing right here. Because the meta templating system is very powerful, and or the templating system, it's not meta templating, but for most basic use cases it's pretty straightforward. But when you start getting into situations where you have multiple templates to handle, so in this case we have a kind that we have to use, right? And in addition to this, we also have this other thing called a type. But with all of this stuff in conjunction, what it ultimately amounts to is a dictionary of dictionaries, or a map of maps, where the trickiest part that I had to figure out in order to get rid of this thing that was throwing an exception is originally, if it got here, then it was throwing an exception. And what would happen is if you try to grab a component for an entity and the entity doesn't exist, originally it was like throwing an exception. But now instead we return an optional. So when we go to store things in the array or in the dictionary, we can just grab the dictionary, and on dictionary grab, if it doesn't exist, then we instantiate it. And then for that given entity ID, we just set the component right there in whatever store it happens to belong to. So if it's like hit points, we check the component table to see if there is a hit points table yet. And if there is, we grab it. And if not, it gets created. And then that entity's ID, his HP gets set. So why is this cool? When we go to get something from that, we return an optional. If the entity didn't exist, then we return a null option. In other words, it has no value. Otherwise, we just return whatever was in that store. We don't have to like create an optional in order to work with it or like return it, right? So you can see right here the component table is ultimately just an unordered map of a type index mapped to a shared void pointer, so that we can handle like arbitrary maps, right? And when we actually go to access the store, we have to do the static cast in order to convert it into an unordered map of type entity ID and then whatever type that particular map is supposed to handle. So if it's hit points, then this type name component traits kind type would return effectively integer. And the reason I had to do this is because I ran into a conflict where you can have multiple components that have the same data type. So as an example, hit points is integer, max hit points is also integer. And originally, before I did this crazy kind of mapping situation, you would first create like a map inside this component table that would be entity ID to integer. But then if you go to create a second one, it would yell at you because it would be like, yo, you already have a map of this type, but we want more than one of those maps, right? So I had to figure out a way to alias all of these different values. Type name kind. And for each of the kinds that we have up here, they start off as just empty structs. But then down here, for that particular component trait with that struct name, we can just define each type for that struct to represent the actual component. So for instance, hit points is int, max HP is also int. And so that way we can have two maps that have the same data type without any conflict, which is pretty cool. But when we go to return the component, in order to deal with this situation where we were previously throwing exceptions, we now have to return a null option. And whenever we go to access a component, we have to check to see if it actually has a value or not. And if it doesn't have a value, then we have to handle it appropriately. And this is effectively the same thing as Rust's result and option and none, right? Very similar workflow, very similar access patterns. Ultimately pretty safe. But when things mess up, it's a lot easier to figure out where they mess up and fix it. So you'd probably much rather deal with this than having to deal with like nasty pointer shit, right? Because there's plenty of nasty pointer shit in this code base, but I've worked through it. And there's still a handful of remnants of things that are hard to like kind of change out of their current state, and I'm not really going to fuck with them. So that might call it for today, y'all. It's been good hanging with you. Got a good amount of stuff done before 3 p.m. Can't complain. My kind of day. I got the whole day ahead of me to fuck around and try and move other things forward and maybe clean up. I'm definitely going to eat soon. What have y'all got going on today? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. I'm probably going to leave in the next few minutes. Well, it's a good time to think about what comes next. Now that I've got this damage animation working again, it might be good to actually get enemies to attack back. Might be good to equip enemies with weapons, get them attacking, plug in sound effects for them as well. It's very easy to get lost in all of the things that you want to do for a game. It's very easy to lose sight of scope and what is appropriate and easy enough to work on where you can make measurable progress. It's very easy to start working on something very big in scope, get halfway through it, be exhausted, and then be put in a position where you have to come back to it later. And being able to take those big scoped items and break them up into chunks is a very important skill set. It's not something, well, no, it is something that's kind of emphasized in the beginning of any good computer science education. And it's the kind of thing that is expected of people deep into writing software, in computer science anyway. Outside of computer science, there are people who work with code, and they don't necessarily have these fundamentals behind them. As a result, the code that they write may not be very performant. It might, what that means is it might take a long time to run. It might utilize more resources than it actually needs to. There's a lot of things that can go wrong when you lack the fundamentals. So if you need fundamentals, please reach out to me, because I've got a lot of experience working one-on-one with individuals in order to improve their code game, basically. I appreciate everyone coming in, hanging out, checking out what I'm doing. One day at a time, y'all, one day at a time. At the end of the day, I realize that, coding streams don't necessarily get the biggest viewership, but I do appreciate every single one of you who has graciously decided to come by during my day streams. At the end of the day, it's like, how, hard and focused on a programmer stream can I expect any viewer to be, especially if I'm not being engaged with or actively talking about what it is that I'm doing constantly. Right? So enemies attacking would be a good next target. We got the enemy damage animation back in, which is really good. And then more intelligent enemy movement and action will come probably sometime after that. It might also make a lot of sense to get back into working on the actual dungeon generation too. That's what I mean by getting scope, because it's difficult to pivot in a single work session from something involving the game logic and the way that entities interact in a dungeon with doing architectural work on the actual layout of the dungeon. These two parts of the code base are big enough that for my own tiny human brain, I have to break them up into these two sections, which I think makes sense for most people, right? There's a lot of scope in both of these problems, and I've definitely put more work on the entities at this point, so it might actually make sense to get back into dungeon floor stuff soon. That might be what we do next. But at any rate, whether or not I do it today or in the tomorrow or in the future, I'm not going to be able to get much more done at the moment until I recharge. And if I attempt to push myself, then it's going to be a bad time. So I think this is where we call it for today, guys. I love you all. Until next time, you know what to do. Take it easy.